I
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna have time for this. I wanted to bring up a thing.
Yeah.
But
It's okay. We can go over. Fuck it.
Let's go through the stuff I wanted to go through, and
We
then
can
we'll
go
bring that
over,
up.
Isaiah. It's okay.
We can't not bring up the critical hits and D20 test stuff.
Yeah.
Like we got to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Matt's sort of the opinion that
Wait. There's a preamble to this. There's a
Okay.
preamble because I know you didn't watch the video, so this is important. All right. Because I do think this is one of those things I mentioned where once I heard the explanation, I'm like, okay, we'll see where this goes. So the thing with the critical hits, Mr. Daddy Crawford basically said, we don't like this situation where level 1 characters would get randomly crit by Scrabo the Gobbo and suddenly fucking die out of nowhere because a goblin shoved a dagger up their asshole. Obviously, he didn't say it quite that way, but you know. So he said we're taking crits off of monsters so that kind of bullshit doesn't happen. However, his justification for this scenario was monsters already have built-in crit abilities, which are recharges. So the example he gave was a Dragon's Breath weapon. The Dragon's Breath weapon is essentially a crit that the GM can choose when they want to use it. Once the recharge goes off, they can say, I'm going to use it the next turn, or I'm not going to use it. You know, it's essentially a crit that you have control over rather than a crit you don't have control over, because a crit you don't have control over can mean that your wizard dies to the fucking Scrabo Gobbo's dagger up the asshole. So that was their justification, or that was the logic behind removing monsters being able to crit. Now, the part where it does get a little weird, though, is it specifically says weapons and unarmed strikes can crit. This means spells cannot crit, and abilities like sneak attack cannot crit. That is where it gets extra wonky.
We spoke about that, and I thought about it. Sneak attack is technically part of your melee weapon attack. It is added damage to the melee weapon attack, so presumably that means it would still crit.
I don't know.
But it would
that
still completely fucking dick over spell users, which I think is a massive problem.
So here's the thing. I'm okay with it. I'm actually okay with spells being unable to crit.
Oh, I'm not at all.
For a couple. Well, hold on. There's a couple of reasons. First of all, apparently, Daddy Crawford said most people did not know spells could crit. So a lot of people were already playing the game with the assumption that spells could not crit, which is an interesting thing. A lot of these changes, by the way, in this whole playtest situation are based on the way people play the game already, rather than like the way the rules say. A lot of misconceptions about how the game is played is where a lot of this came from. So the thing about spells critting, yeah, like I said, a lot of people didn't know they could, but also Nerd Immersion pointed this out. There's a really small, like the percentage of spells in the game that can benefit from critical hits is really small. There's not that many spells that roll to attack. Most damage spells are saves, which already couldn't crit before. That's not new for saves. So it's actually not that huge of a change. And the other thing is, if spellcasters can't crit, you do close the gap between the martial caster disparity a little bit. If the fighter is able to crit and the wizard isn't, there is a little bit of that closing of the gap, which is something a lot of people want.
Which I get, but I don't want it in that way. I don't want to lower the tide, right? Like,
again, though,
I don't
you're not
want to
lowering it that much. You know, there's so few spells.
Yes, potentially,
a lot of those low too.
A lot of those spell attacks are cantrips.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Which can be very important. Like, it really doesn't matter if you can't crit at higher level, because you're right, a lot of the higher level shit is either absolutes or saving throws.
Saves, yeah.
But you're fucking over most warlocks, you're fucking over a lot of wizards.
Well, here's the thing,
you're fucking over some sorcerers.
This is the other thing. They could add a tag two abilities that say this ability can crit. So if Eldritch Blast becomes a class ability, they can say in the class ability, Eldritch Blast can crit. Then you solve the problem, right?
You do, but I don't like that you're adding, like, it almost feels like you're adding unnecessary bloat. Other than just saying spell attacks can still crit.
I don't know. I think it's
because then you have to go in and start picking and choosing. Then people go, well, why? How come this to like? How come inflict wounds can't crit, but like firebolt can?
Well, no,
and I just don't like that.
Can't. Firebolt wouldn't be able. Both of those wouldn't be able to.
That's what I'm saying. Under the like, if you pick and choose.
Well, that's what. That's why. No. That's why. Again, though, remember, assuming Eldritch Blast is not a spell anymore, it's an ability.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is if they start adding some spells that can crit,
that would be a little funky. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, how come this to hit could like? How come this spell attack can crit and this one can't? I feel like if you just keep it as spell attacks can crit carte blanche, it just makes things simpler.
I actually kind of like the ideas of spells not critting because, in a weird way, it kind of reinforces the fantasy of playing a spellcaster, which is I'm blowing my load on all my powerful spells. Oh no, I'm only down to my little wonky cantrips. I can't hit that hard with these because they're not my big powerful thing. I kind of like it, and I'm okay with spells not being able to crit.
Here's the problem. It reinforces the flavor for some casters and fucks others. Because again,
who does it
warlocks
fuck other than warlock?
I would say warlocks and druids particularly. Because druids have things like primal savagery and shillelagh.
Yeah, and like worst case, you could be a wizard with
shillelagh could still crit because it's a weapon attack once you cast it. Because you put it on your weapon.
Sort of, but the actual damage is coming from the shillelagh because it says because of shillelagh it turns it into a D8 that's magical.
Sure, but hypothetically that could still crit because it's a weapon attack. I mean, maybe not, but I would think.
Or what about like is it Green Flame Blade and all that? Or actually, those are
Green Flame Blade couldn't crit before.
Yeah,
Green Flame Blade's flat damage based on your level, I think.
Right. It's the attack thing. Yeah, that's what I'm mixing it up with.
Yep. I don't know.
I think this is too complicated. I think this is just like we just make it all attack rolls and saving rolls, saving throws. They can crit, roll nat 20, auto success, all that shit.
Saving throws can't
and then
crit
just
already. Saving throws can't crit. They never could.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like just make life easier. Make saving throws. You roll natural 20, it's crit, you auto success, there you go.
Well,
any attack rolls, magic, spell, whatever.
No, wait, how would that work though, Matt? Because you're not rolling the die, the target rolls the die.
Well, it depends. That's what I'm saying. If it's a player has to make a saving throw, they roll nat 20, auto success, there you go. But if it's a monster,
that's already how it works, essentially, because if you rolled 20, you probably beat the DC anyway.
Yeah.
So nothing would change.
It depends. Again, it depends.
You're not making sense, Chief.
Okay. And like I just don't like for me, again, Jeremy Crawford, like the thing he gave were like the whole recharge ability.
That's separate. Hold on. That's a separate thing. Hold on.
That's a separate thing?
Separate, because we're only talking about the spell situation right now.
The spell situation, yeah, I know. I'm kind of with Isaiah on this. It's not fun. It's just not a fun ruling to just not have the very, very limited amount of spells that can crit. Just rule it as, I get what you're talking about, where like spells like, yeah, the cantrip shouldn't be doing a shit ton of damage. Regardless, if you crit with a cantrip, it's not going to do a lot of damage anyways, but you take what you can get. If you manage to roll a crit on a firebolt against the ogre,
you do just
that crit might save your ass.
But it's you say it doesn't do that much damage, but it's the same amount of damage as the fighter is doing with their sword.
No, not necessarily, because you're losing out on your ability modifier.
Okay, so it's like 2 to 3 less damage.
And plus what if the fighter has a magic sword? Yeah,
magic
sword.
Physical fighters get to add, the whole thing about physicals is that your modifiers mean the world, right?
Right, but even at the highest, if you have a +5, let's say you have a longsword, you have a firebolt. Both of them crit, both of them roll max damage. The fighter potentially gets 5 more damage. That's it.
That's all you need.
It's a little
it's,
bit.
it's,
better than nothing.
it's 5 more per attack.
Right. Well, we're saying we're only talking about a single attack, though. Right. We're only saying 1 hit. You know, like, I don't know. I'm okay with spells not critting. I think the monsters is where I get iffy on it.
Yeah, the monster's not critting that I
not crazy
heavily do
about
not
that.
like. Yeah. And again, the excuse they gave where it's like the recharge ability is like a crit. It's like, no, it's not. It's not a crit. It's not a guaranteed crit. I get
It kind of is. Like, he's not wrong.
It's not that he's wrong. It's just it's not. It's just a random like tidbit fact that they kind of threw out there.
Well, no, it's not a
Because if
random
you look at
tidbit.
it,
He said-
if you look at like an adult red dragon, it's like, oh, it's fire breath. It's like, oh, it does. Oh, it's like a crit, right? Oh, it's like a crit that does 63 average damage. And it's like, okay,
that's a pretty
63
big hit.
average damage to a high level party is not, it's whatever.
That's
So
a
like, and
pretty-
it's like,
I
oh, it's the
mean,
fact that it's a recharge, you can get it again.
Well,
That's
hold
a
on,
pretty big hit.
So real quick, Matt. So
Also,
the one thing I will
especially-
say is it's not that like 62 damage might not be that much damage on a crit, but if you add their natural recharge plus a crit,
Yeah.
what a dragon can potentially hit 9 times around,
Yeah.
you're getting with some crazy numbers there.
Wait,
yeah.
a dragon can't hit 9 times around. What the fuck? What?
Well, it
Legendaries.
has legendaries, right? So if assuming it has 3
No, I'm
because it has
just
claw,
talking-
claw, bite.
Yeah, we're just talking about the one turn, the recharge ability, the fire breath,
The 1 hit.
recharge, adult red dragon.
No, yes, I understand. Yes,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that one turn, it's like, oh, it's 60 damage to every player in one turn,
Plus
and then-
everything else they do is what I
plus
said.
everything else they do, and the fact that they will be able to recharge it much more now that they get it back on crits and not on a 5-up.
Well,
Especially because if they take 3 rounds to do...
What? Did you just make up a new thing? They didn't change how recharge works. What are you talking about?
If they crit to recharge on top of their natural recharge,
No, that's not what they said. What are you talking
so they're
about?
just getting rid of the... What do you think I'm talking? I didn't watch the video. What do you think I'm talking about?
Okay,
So
no.
I'm saying-
You're misunderstanding, Isaiah. They're not saying a crit gives them their recharge back. They're saying monsters cannot crit. The recharge is their mechanical equivalent to a player's critical, is what they're saying.
Which
So,
is not a great reason because
The
again,
recharge
and then also,
mechanic is still roll a d6. They didn't change that.
yeah,
That works as same.
but also not every monster has a recharge.
Not every.
So
right.
are
Well,
they going to go in
presumably
and
they
add
would
it?
add? Yes, presumably they would start adding.
That's
recharges.
really. I'm not gonna lie. That's really fucking annoying. That's as a dungeon master. If every single monster has a recharge ability,
Well, no, it wouldn't be every. It would be the big boys, right? Because the whole thing is they don't want little minions to dick you over and kill you with a shitty crit, right? So it would only be big boy boss type monsters that would get the recharges.
Honestly, so what would make me happy, right, is if they made cleave rules. Like, if they added more tactical shit, like cleave rules, or pierce rules, or sunder rules, right? And just let the minions crit. Because it's like, oh, well, if each minion, if the gobos can attack twice each, and even if they only do a d4, 2d4 plus 4 on a level 1 player will fuck you up. Correct. But if they only have 5 HP and the barbarian does 10 damage a round, he's killing 2 goblins with each slash, right? So it gives the players more options and still balances things out.
yeah. I mean, the other thing for me is like crits are fun. So for me as a hey,
I
Wizards of
agree,
the Coast,
crits are
as
fun.
an actual dungeon master that plays your game,
Hey, they play the game.
crits are fun for not only for the players but for the dungeon master. So why take away more fun from me as well? I am a player at the game as well.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plates being spit. I knew this was gonna. We probably should have brought this one up sooner. I knew there was gonna be a lot of plates on this one. Okay, hold on. So, agreed. Yes, crit's fun. I agree, Matt. I do want to be able to crit with my monsters. The idea of the recharge weapon being the critical ability is interesting. I'm not totally against it. I will say this, the 63 average damage is a lot more damage than the 15 average damage from their claw attack. So, in that regard, yeah, the breath weapon is kind of a crit. It is, 5 times the damage of like one of their physical attacks? So, that is kind of crit levels of damage. Especially because if they do crit on their claw, they're rolling 2d6 plus, so they're rolling 4d6 plus 8 versus 18d6. They're rolling versus, I said that right, versus 18d6. Now, all that being said, I think the solution here is actually quite well, okay, there's 2 ways you could do this. You could go in 2 different directions. Option A, say, because we have the whole general versus specific ruling in 5e, say, all right, monsters generally cannot crit. Then in a bunch of monster stat blocks, you add an ability, this monster is able to crit. That's one way you could go about it. So Gobbo minions, not able to crit. Goblin boss is able to crit. That's one way you could do it. The other option, which I think this is probably the easier way to do it, I think, just say enemies below CR5 cannot crit. Everything else can. Or give an optional rule. You cannot crit your players until they hit level 5. Or level 3. Or whatever. Okay. Just make an optional rule. Yeah. If you don't want your game to be vicious in the way, if you don't want the possibility of a goblin taking out your level 1 wizard, here's an optional rule. You cannot crit your players with monsters until level 5. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. And then everything else just stay as is.
A part of me wants to I would prefer if it was like, crits can't kill you up to a certain level.
Oh, they can only down you?
Yeah, because I prefer that, because it's like, if
you could do that
goblin,
too.
Because I don't know.
You could do that too.
If you build a particularly dickhead barbarian, right? If you go barbarian Kalishtar, and you're just resistant to everything in the kitchen sink, and the Gobbo does crit you, and the player goes, shit, fuck, I didn't think this was gonna happen. I didn't think I'd get this far, right? Like, and it's like, well, the good news is, I literally can't kill you with this. Like, a Death Knight couldn't walk up, an Ancient Dragon could clap you a football field's distance away with its tail swipe, and you'll walk it off somehow. You know what I mean?
Here, I'll do you one better, Isaiah. The mechanic of auto death, if you double your health and damage, that doesn't turn on until level 5. Just turn that mechanic off until a certain point.
And that's when you can have like the meat grinder mode, like they have from Tomb of Annihilation as well.
Yeah, you just turn.
It's like,
you just turn it off.
Yeah.
Although it does, you make a good point there, Isaiah. It does feel a little weird to say until the players are level 5. I would probably base it on the monster, so I would say monsters below like CR5 cannot kill you, double your health, the whole double your health thing.
Yeah, I would also want to,
because I feel like if the red dragon hits you across the football field, you should just auto die if you're a level 1 wizard. Like,
you would have to. I think you'd also have to specify monsters, because it's like, no double health can kill me. I'm just gonna jump down a ravine to get the stuck in diamond. I'm gonna keyfish myself.
Good point. Didn't even think about that one.
Just the funniest shit on the planet.
That's true. I did not consider that one.
You know what sucks? I can't remember that point that I wanted to bring up before, and now I'm kind of mad.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But also, I will say this personally. I think it's kind of funny when your level 1 wizard gets fucking dicked on by Robbo the Gobbo, and I think you should just let it happen and embrace the chaos.
That's how I roll. Yeah, it adds drama when it's like, all right, wizard, the goblin's gonna stab you, and that's a crit. How much health do you have? 4. All right, that's 18 damage.
Even if it doesn't add drama, like even if it's like a really shitty scenario, just embrace the chaos. That's part of D&D, That's how
yeah.
Right? Like,
it's all down to the clickety clacks.
Yeah.
So other quick things I wanted to bring up.